Good morning. Welcome to PaynePoints of Interest. We're going to do a little bit of role reversal today. This is Michael Payne playing your host. I'm here with Sarah Harbuck, and we're going to talk about a topic that I personally really wanted a lot of input on because honestly, it's just not necessarily my place, and I may actually have some questions here. So this topic comes from user Renos3R on Reddit, and it's titled "Having a Baby While Operating a Small Business." Renos3R asks, "I am curious if there are any other mothers on here that own and operate a successful small business and have had babies while doing it. How were you able to step away, and for how long? How did you manage both? Did you check in while away? How often? I'm a female operating a small business. I have 3 employees, and the business heavily relies on me for certain things. I'm pregnant with my first child, and my husband has a full-time job. We cannot afford for one of us to step away from their careers and stay at home. My husband has about 2 months of paid leave he can take. Mine is a little more tricky. I'm thinking 6 weeks with continuous checking in after the first 2 weeks." So, this is the topic, and so Sarah, your initial thoughts for this user's question.
Well, I have 3 children of my own. They're all teenagers and grown now, but I remember when they were little and how hard it is to be a mother. And I was a young mother, so it was a little different for me, perhaps. I wasn't really running a business when my first 2 kids were really little, so that kind of helped. But I will say that it's definitely a balancing act. No one's Wonder Woman, Superwoman here. You're never going to be able to do everything perfectly. My philosophy is, now this is my personal experience, something will always suffer. You're either going to be super great at your job and kind of sucking at the motherhood thing, or you're going to be super great at the motherhood thing and you're going to be sucking at your job a little bit. Your priorities you have to figure out what your priority is. Obviously, for almost any mother, they're going to be their child. And I think it's very important when you first had a baby to take that time to bond with your child, to heal, because, childbirth is a traumatic experience for your body, as well as your mind in some ways. You're going to be sleep deprived. You're going to just have no energy, and you're going to have all these things around your home in addition to taking care of a baby. Worrying about a business can be really difficult. Now, based on this user's question, staying at home and being a full-time parent is not an option. And I completely understand that, sympathize with it. It's really hard to live on one salary these days, really, for any family. So I get it. Trying to find that work-life balance when you've had a new child is going to be an interesting journey for them, because, navigating that's half the battle. Knowing, how much you should be paying attention to what's going on at work and checking in. My advice to her would be to now, if she's still got a few months left before having the baby, to look at one of those 3 employees and see which one she trusts the most and who she can rely on to kind of step into her shoes and make those decisions and make those, take care of those things that the business relies heavily on for her, or possibly even hire someone temporarily, to help sort of fill the gaps, and really put people in place to help her succeed, not only as, a business owner, but as a mother. She's going to need to take that time to be with her child and give the attention she's going to need to give there those first few weeks of life. And just for herself, her own body, her own hormones and emotions are going to be just on a roller coaster. And I don't envy anyone who is having babies and running a business, however small or big. That's a challenge for anybody. And I think that, I think the best thing there that I could say is, if she's got employees, if she trusts one of them to take her place for a little while, to give her some wiggle room to kind of adjust to motherhood and being a business owner.
Hmm. I think that one of my big questions is even in your daily life of, and I don't know how much of a business you were running when your littles were like tiny, but how does adhering to like a more rigid schedule help with that, if at all, in trying to uh, divvy up that responsibility, that role?
I mean, for me personally, I like more structure and scheduling. And so, when my youngest child, who's now 11, when she was a baby, I was running a business. So it was definitely, that's more adaptable for me than my first two kids when they were little. Uh, babies are on their own schedule sometimes. You can train them to be on a schedule, so you got to be flexible, but having kind of at least a template in your mind of, okay, this is what my day is going to look like, and I'm going to try to make it stay within this, this cookie cutter that I've got going here, will, I think, help to some degree. But you also you shouldn't beat yourself up if the baby stayed up all night or somebody's sick and you didn't get any sleep and you don't get anything done the next day. I mean, that's a common story for a lot of working moms. So giving yourself a little bit of grace and going, not every day I'm going to have it together and not every day this is going to work out. But, I definitely, for me personally, having some sort of at least a loosely based schedule that I was going to work off of to kind of help me get things accomplished. And then, with the nature of my business as a photographer, I could kind of take on less clients and know that I could meet the demand that I already had versus piling on more stuff. I don't know what kind of business this woman is running, so, it's hard to give any advice in that area. If you could slow down, I mean, she's got 3 employees, so that may not even be a thing that needs to happen. But I know for me, I kind of scaled back the amount of clients I took and how much work I did that first year when Ava was an infant, so that I could manage to do both, and do them relatively successfully.
Right. Yeah, I mean, it does seem like, your time is going to be limited.
Yeah.
Even as a dad, the amount of time I have to do things now with all the kids there versus the time I would have if I were a single person, it's drastically different.
Yeah.
In a lot of ways, that it makes the time more valuable. But it really boils down to there's only a certain number of ways to get the same amount out of out of a lesser amount of time for you personally, and either that's delegation. You have to have people to help you take this on, and maybe more hiring. It may mean additional responsibilities and pay increases for current employees, or you have to scale back the amount of work that you have to do. It's one of those two things, and I don't think there's much of an option either way.
Yeah. I mean, it's hard, and you got to give yourself, especially when it's your first baby, you don't really know what to expect, and you got to give yourself some time to adjust because, I have people in my own personal life currently who are just like, well, they're pregnant or they want to be, and, oh, well, it'll be fine, and it's like, I think you need to just, this is not as simple as you think. Yes, people have been having babies for forever and ever, but, having a baby and running a business, that's just that's a lot of challenge, and you've gotta really give yourself the time to do one or the other, and really, be gracious with yourself and trust the people that you've hired to work with you to help you. And if you can't trust them, then, there may be some, there may be some things you need to shift around before the baby comes.
Yeah.
But I think this is definitely something that almost any working mother or father, really, because I mean, let's face it, dads are a lot more involved in their kids' lives now than they used to be. This is a topic that I think everybody can relate to, because having kids and being a working parent is a struggle, and it's a hard, it's a fine tightrope you have to walk, and trying to find that balance is tricky for anyone.
Right.
Right.
All right. So that's about all the time we have for today's Pain Points of Interest. If you have any feedback, we'd love to hear it. You can send us that feedback through our website at PaynePoints.com, or you can hit us up on social media. We're on Facebook at PaynePoints. We're on Instagram at Payne.points. We're on LinkedIn also at PaynePoints, and we are on Twitter at PointsPayne. We'll talk to you tomorrow with a new topic for the Pain Points of Interest.